Look what the medevac dragged in. You think this broken little bird can teach my Marines anything about survival? She looks like she needs a lesson in breathing. The crowd of young, sun-scorched Marines shifted, their nervous laughter carried on the dry desert wind. Before them stood a woman who seemed barely there, a whisper of a person against the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Mojave. She was slight, her frame thin under a loose-fitting instructor's uniform, and she moved with a subtle, almost imperceptible limp. She offered no reaction to the insult, no flicker of anger or shame. Her gaze remained level, her hands, resting at her sides, were perfectly still. Her silence was a void, drawing in the captain's loud arrogance and suffocating it. She simply adjusted the strap on a worn, nondescript go bag, the movement economical and precise. But across the dusty training ground, observing from the shade of the command tent, a visiting admiral saw it. He saw the set of her jaw, the specific way she scanned the horizon, the profound calm that radiated from her like a shield. It was a stillness he hadn't seen in years, a silence forged in places men like the loud captain couldn't even imagine. The admiral knew assumptions were a luxury the battlefield did not afford. If you believe a warrior's spirit is not defined by their scars, type never out below. The base was a monument to hardship, a place where the Marine Corps sent its best to be broken and remade into something harder. Captain Thorne, the officer in charge of this brutal evasion and recovery course, saw himself as the master blacksmith. He paced before the assembled unit, his voice a hammer striking steel. We are here to learn how to survive, to become ghosts. We are not here to entertain charity cases from the Wounded Warrior program. He gestured dismissively toward the woman, Maya Vance. Look at her. Medically discharged, probably pushed a pencil for a few years, and now some desk jockey in logistics thinks she can impart wisdom. The insult hung in the air, thick and choking. The Marines, eager to please their commander, absorbed his contempt. They saw what he wanted them to see: weakness, fragility, a woman out of her place. Maya, meanwhile, ignored the performance. Her attention was on the equipment laid out on a dusty canvas tarp for the demonstration. A standard-issue compass, a single canteen of water, a well-worn K-bar knife. Her hands, crisscrossed with fine, silvery scars, moved with an unnerving, practiced grace. She checked the seal on the canteen, tested the blade of the knife against her thumb with a familiarity that was both intimate and chilling. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. It was the pure, unadulterated language of competence, a dialect Thorne had never bothered to learn. Her silence was not empty. It was disciplined, a reservoir of focus in a sea of pointless noise. The challenge was laid down like a gauntlet, a 10-click navigation exercise through the Devil's Anvil, a labyrinth of canyons and razor-sharp ridges, while being hunted by Thorne's 3 best trackers. The objective was simple: reach the extraction point undetected. We'll give you a 5-minute head start, Thorne announced, his voice dripping with condescending magnanimity. It's the professional courtesy we extend to civilians. Maya simply nodded once, shouldered her small pack, and without a backward glance, melted into the shimmering heat haze of the desert floor. She didn't run. Her limp made that inefficient. Instead, she flowed over the terrain, her steps so light they barely disturbed the pebbles. She moved with the land, not against it, her body a part of the landscape's harsh poetry. Thorne watched her go, a smirk playing on his lips. He turned to his elite tracking team. "Find her in 20 minutes, he commanded, his tone final. "I want her back here for a debrief on why paper pushers shouldn't play in our sandbox. I want to hear her explain what went wrong." His men, confident and eager, fanned out and disappeared after her, their movements aggressive and loud compared to the ghosts they were hunting. The desert held its breath, waiting. The 20 minutes bled into an hour. The hour stretched into 4. The desert sun climbed to its zenith, beating down with a merciless intensity. Captain Thorne's smug confidence began to curdle into a tight knot of irritation. His trackers, the best he had, were reporting nothing but dead ends and maddening silence. No footprints on the hard-baked clay. No broken twigs in the sparse scrub. No sign that a human being had passed through it all. It was as if she had simply vanished, swallowed by the earth itself. The command tent grew tense, the air thick with unspoken questions. Thorne's posture stiffened, his arrogance fraying at the edges. Then, the static hiss of the long-range radio crackled to life, breaking the suffocating quiet. The voice that came through was perfectly calm, devoid of exertion or stress, as clear as a bell in the oppressive heat. "This is Vance. Extraction point reached." Requesting exfil, a collective, sharp intake of breath swept through the tent. Thorne stared at the radio, as if it had betrayed him. But the voice wasn't finished. Also, it continued with the same unnerving calm. "I have disarmed and detained your 3-man tracking team. They're secured at grid coordinate Delta 9 or 7. They'll need their canteens back." The radio clicked off, plunging the tent into a deafening silence. Thorne's face, flushed red with fury just moments before, drained to a sickly, chalk white. The impossible had happened. The broken little bird hadn't just survived. She had hunted the hunters. Admiral Jackson had seen enough. He rose from his chair in the back of the command tent, his movements slow and deliberate, drawing every eye in the room. He walked past the frozen form of Captain Thorne without a glance, his expression as hard and unreadable as granite. He stopped at the central communications console, his presence filling the space with an unspoken authority that dwarfed Thorne's petty tyranny. An aide, sensing the shift in gravity, rushed to his side. "Sir," the Admiral's voice was quiet, yet it cut through the stunned silence like a blade. "Access the Naval Special Warfare Personnel Database. Top-level clearance." The aide fumbled with the keyboard, his hands shaking slightly. He typed in the name the Admiral provided. Vance M. The screen flashed red, a block of text demanding Omega-level authorization. The Admiral leaned forward and entered his own override codes. The file opened. The hum of the cooling fans was the only sound in the world. The Admiral stood there for a long moment, reading the screen, his face a mask of profound, sorrowful respect. The mystery of the quiet woman in the desert was about to be solved, not with a whisper, but with the thunder of undeniable truth. The Admiral turned away from the screen to face the assembled officers, his gaze sweeping over them before finally landing, with immense weight, on Captain Thorne. His voice was not loud, but it carried the absolute finality of a judge delivering a verdict. "Petty Officer First Class Maya Vance," he began, reading from the file that only he could see. "Call sign, Echo. Unit, Naval Special Warfare Development Group." A wave of shock rippled through the room. DevGru, SEAL Team 6. The name itself was a legend, a whispered myth. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. 5 combat deployments. Bronze Star with V4 Valor. Silver Star recommendation pending. 2 Purple Hearts. He paused, letting the weight of the words sink in, letting the shame find its home in the faces of the ignorant. Then he delivered the final, devastating blow. Last known status. MIA, presumed Kia, during Operation Nightfall, Kandahar Province. He looked directly at Thorne, his voice dropping to a low, cold tone. "She wasn't dead in the field, Captain. She was behind enemy lines, alone, for 182 days. She evaded an entire enemy battalion and walked herself across 2 mountain ranges to a friendly outpost. She isn't here to teach her men a lesson on survival. She is the lesson." The Admiral then turned to the radio, picked up the handset, and his voice, now filled with a deep, paternal reverence, spoke into the silence. "Echo, this is Stonewall. Well done, sailor. Welcome home." The story did not just spread, it detonated. It moved like wildfire through the barracks, across the mess halls, and into the hushed conversations of the NCOs. The Ghost of Mojave, they called her. The 3 humbled trackers, their pride shattered but their respect absolute, became reluctant storytellers. They spoke in awed tones of how she had simply appeared, a shadow detaching itself from the midday sun. They described her movements as liquid precision, how she disarmed them with a series of fluid, effortless motions that felt more like a dance than a fight. They recalled how she never said a single word, her eyes calm and assessing, until they were neatly secured with their own bootlaces, their rifles and canteens piled carefully beside them. The name Echo ceased to be a call sign. It became a symbol of a level of competence they had never imagined possible. Later that afternoon, several Marines saw Captain Thorne standing alone at the edge of the training range, staring out into the empty, unforgiving desert where his arrogance had been so thoroughly dismantled. He wasn't shouting or posturing. He was just standing there, utterly still, wrapped in a profound and humbling silence that seemed to mirror the very woman who had broken him. The next morning, as the sun began its relentless climb, Thorne found Maya by the simple obstacle course, where she was quietly observing a group of new recruits. There was no audience, no ceremony. He walked up to her and stopped, for the first time looking not down at her, but up to her. He swallowed hard, the desert air suddenly thick in his throat. "Ma'am," he began, the unaccustomed word of respect feeling foreign and necessary. "I was wrong. My assumptions were unprofessional. My conduct was inexcusable." He looked her in the eye, his own gaze stripped of all its former bluster. "There's no excuse. But I am asking. I would be honored if you would train my men." "Train me?" Maya Vance watched him, her expression holding the same deep calm she'd worn all along. For a long moment, she said nothing, letting his apology settle in the space between them. Then she gave a single, slow nod. "Understood, Captain." That one word, delivered with no triumph and no condescension, was more powerful than any lecture. Her quiet acceptance was the final lesson. In the months that followed, the grueling ENR exercise was officially renamed. It became known, with a reverence bordering on myth, as the Echo Run. It was no longer just a test of skill. It was a testament to the fact that the most dangerous warriors are often the ones you never see coming. A year passed. The base in the Mojave, once just another cog in the military machine, was now legendary. It boasted the highest evasion and recovery qualification rates in the entire Marine Corps. The culture had shifted, the loud arrogance replaced by a quiet, focused professionalism. Captain Thorne was a changed man. He was a better leader, a wiser teacher, a man who now taught every new batch of Marines to measure a warrior not by the volume of their voice, but by the depth of their silence and the precision of their actions. He told them the story of the ghost, the quiet woman who had dismantled his pride and rebuilt his understanding of strength. Maya Echo Vance was no longer there. She had been reassigned, serving as a lead instructor at the farm, the SEAL's own hallowed training ground, shaping the next generation of quiet professionals. But her legacy was etched into the very soul of the desert base. At the extraction point, deep in the Devil's Anvil, a simple wooden sign had been driven into the rocky earth, hand-carved by the very trackers she had humbled. It read, "Echo Point. Never out." It was a landmark, a warning, and a promise. True strength is not the noise you make, the rank you wear, or the authority you project. It is the quiet, unyielding competence forged in crucibles no one will ever see or comprehend. It is the profound calm in the center of the storm, the internal discipline to act while others talk, and the unshakable resilience to endure when everyone else has broken. Legacy is not a metal pin to a chest or a name listed in a file. It is the standard you set, the lesson you embody, and the quiet professionals you inspire to carry that standard forward into the darkness. Assumptions are the sworn enemy of wisdom, and respect is the sacred currency of warriors, a currency earned not by the insignia on your collar, but by the untamable fire in your soul. It is proven in the silence between heartbeats, in the steady hand on the trigger, and in the unwavering will to complete the mission, no matter the cost. For more stories where silent strength triumphs over loud assumptions, and where unwavering competence defines their worth, subscribe to Unknown Heroine Stories.